Not only does Utah have an incredible history in computer science, they are continuing the legacy with programs that are cutting edge and innovative. Gaming, graphics, and user interfaces all being improved at the University of Utah, and not only for entertainment. Thanks for staying with us for our second In Focus discussion tonight on Utah, the internet, and gaming. Joining us now is Roger Altizer, the co-founder of the School of Entertainment Arts and Engineering at the University of Utah. Hi, Roger. Thanks for spending your Tuesday evening with us.
Hi, there's no place I'd rather be. Thanks for having me.
Well, Roger, we just passed the 51st anniversary of Utah being the fourth node on the internet. What does that mean to you?
You know, the internet changed everything from our lives to games, for sure. And I'll tell you what it means to me. It means that I can video chat with my mom now. You know, she's all the way in California and we're all the way out here in Utah. And that would have been science fiction when all this stuff was first being thought of. So the internet is the dominant form of distributing entertainment and communication. And it's certainly for email as well. I'm not always grateful for that, but you know, you take the good with the bad.
Yeah, and it's also had a big impact in broadcasting, and sometimes it makes you think, how would we go through this pandemic right now if we didn't have the internet? I want to talk about gaming. How did the internet revolutionize gaming?
Yeah, the internet has totally changed the face of gaming. If you think about how games used to be distributed, we used to get them on cartridges, like physical sets of chips and plastic. Maybe you remember that when you had a Nintendo, they would get dirty, you had to blow on them to get them to work. Then later floppy disks. And now digital seems to be the major distribution network for games. And we're seeing that with the new consoles. So for example, the new Xbox console, the Xbox Series S, is a digital only platform. There's no disk drive in it. So you download all those games and play them online. And then of course, mobile games, all the mobile games that we play and love come to us digitally as well. And the revenue on mobile gaming has skyrocketed so much and has made gaming more accessible to more people all over the world. So yeah, the internet has totally changed gaming, reduce the kind of hardware you needed, and increase the amount of people who can connect through games.
That's what I was just going to say, is that it's reduced our carbon footprint, and basically these devices have just gotten smaller and smaller, and now we don't even need to hold it or see it. So let's talk about how big the gaming industry is, how many people in Utah, the US, globally are gamers.
Oh yeah, certainly. Gaming is a massive industry, and it's been on the up climb for a number of years now. Games is something like $160 billion globally, and like 60 billion of that is in the States. It is a massive form of entertainment. Just here in the States, there's over 200 million people playing games, and out of a country of 300 and change, that means about 2/3 of people are playing games. And it's all sorts of people who you wouldn't expect. The ESA does these great reports about the state of gaming in America, and you can look up theesa.com if you want those stats and to see them for yourselves. But one of the really interesting facts that they always come out with is there's actually more adult women than young men playing video games, for example. So more women over 35 play games than men under 18. And what we see is in America, of our 200 million gamers, approximately 50 million of them are under the age of 18. And then the rest of that, the remaining 160 million, are over 18. And we're seeing just that the older age demographics playing more and more games every year. And it's just fantastic to see.
That is such an interesting tidbit. I would have never guessed that women, out of, were older women, we were seeing more of them than younger males. Now, one of the things you study is the psychological aspect of gaming, such as why we become engaged. What have you learned, and how can you apply those principles to other things like education?
Yeah, you know, the psychology of games and particularly of engagement is just a booming field, and we're learning new things every year. One of the things that we know, for example, is that a lot of people use games to relax and also for mental stimulation. And the brain loves it. A few years ago, we got our first fMRI studies of games. What that means is we got a brain scan of what's happening in the mind while somebody plays a video game, and the results were fascinating. The brain is doing radically different things when you're playing a game game versus watching a movie or reading a book or engaging in other passive media, because you're making so many decisions. And it's why games are so engaging, right? It's because if you're looking at the screen and you press down on that controller and that little Mario moves to the left, you don't even have to do anything and the brain is excited because the brain wanted something to happen and it happened immediately, and it was colorful and engaging. And so there's academic theories on this kind of stuff. A really common one that gets used is flow. The idea, if you make a game more difficult at the same time someone's skill increase, they get into a state where they just almost lose track of time. And it's similar to sports, right? When you're good at a sport, you can play a sport for a long time. But when you're bad in the beginning, it's frustrating, right? And the same is true of video games. But the work on video games for as antidepressants, for engagement, for pain relief, we're just scratching the surface of this. In the next 10 years, you're going to see games used for all sorts of awesome things for psychology and therapy.
So I am actually one of those people that fall in that category. I use games as a way to stimulate a different part of my brain and to alleviate stress and anxiety. So as I'm listening to you explain the psychology of it, it really resonates with me and why I game. But Roger, we have to hold that thought because we have to take a quick commercial break. But when we come back, we'll resume our In Focus discussion on Utah, the internet, and gaming. Welcome to our third and final segment of our In Focus topic tonight, Utah, the internet, and gaming. Before the break, Roger Altizer, the co-founder of the School of Entertainment, Arts, and Engineering at the University of Utah, joined us live via Zoom for a discussion, and we pick up right where we left off. So Roger, talk about diversity in gaming and as well in your program.
Yeah, that's an exciting topic to talk about. I think it's on everyone's heart and mind here in 2020. The whole world seems to have woken up to issues of inequality and diversity, and it's a wonderful thing. When we first started entertainment, arts, and engineering, I think we had the same problem that a lot of technical programs do, where there just wasn't enough diversity in the beginning. And in particular, we weren't seeing enough women in the beginning. And one of the ways that we changed that, really, and our numbers are looking really great right now, was scholarships for women, going to high schools and talking about those scholarships, bringing in diverse speakers, and it really opened up a whole new crop of applicants. And games is blessed and cursed, right? A lot of people can talk about how games is a place where online chat can feel toxic at times, and some people aren't always comfortable there. But there are so many diverse game developers. Games are starting to feature diverse characters, like the new Spider-Man game featuring Miles Morales, someone who's Puerto Rican and black, are really opening up both who is seen in games and who is making games. And on Twitter, there's been a massive movement. So the hashtag I need diverse games is really a place where lots of gamers have sort of seen that there are lots of people playing games and that we can do things to encourage a diverse population of people to join in making games.
Yeah, diverse players love to see that representation as well in that video game media. Now, gaming isn't all entertainment. There is a strong learning component. In fact, that I just learned that you're also the director of digital medicine at the university. So let's talk about that. What is digital medicine and what kind of work do you do for that field?
Yeah, when you're a workaholic, they give you multiple titles, so it's kind of fun to wear a few hats. So half of my week is spent on what we call main campus, making entertainment games with students. And then the other half is up at the hospital, actually, making medical video games and apps at a place called the Therapeutic Games and Apps Lab. And Utah Health was really visionary in doing this. It's a very large lab with anywhere from 25 to 35 students every semester collaborating with clinicians of all sorts, psychologists, doctors, nurses, anyone you can imagine, dentists, to create games that are both for patients, for clinicians, and then also for education. There's a real big emphasis on how do we leverage virtual reality to teach medical students right now. And I think that's going to be just an explosive field in the near future. And so we're doing a lot to create learning modules in VR as an example. And then we're just starting a new project with our Navajo Nation down in southern Utah to sort of ship virtual reality training down there to encourage people down there to become clinicians and study here at the University of Utah. But from patients learning how and when to take their medications, to the dangers of opioid addiction, to actual video games that help older adults with depression, digital medicine at Utah is exploding.
I absolutely love that this is an option for treatment, and VR is actually pretty great for fitness too. When I do VR, I sweat and I'm like, wow, I don't even need to go to the gym or leave my living room. Let's talk about.
We're very much alike in that sense.
Yeah, let's talk about the esports program at the U.
Yeah.
We have an incredible program. How was it founded? How is it set up? And how many people watch or participate in the competition?
Yeah, you know, esports is a phenomenal thing here at Utah, and really, there's sort of three people that I have to give a shout out to it. AJ Dimmick is our director of esports. Our president Ruth Watkins had a vision that this could happen at Utah and was very supportive from the beginning. And Angie Klinger is who's no longer a student at Utah, but she was the student who sort of started the club that took a club of like a dozen people and turned it into an esport of 400 people on the team at one point here at Utah. So it's grown great and big. Esports at Utah really starts around 2017. And even in that first year, we saw amazing things happen. Like we had a big tournament in League of Legends where it was Utah versus BYU. And we had like over 1,000 people come to the live event there in Rice Eccles Stadium and like 15,000 people online to watch Utah play BYU in a video game. Since then, it's grown. We have a couple dozen students on the team. They're student athletes. They're scholarshiped, and we treat them and think of them like student athletes. Utah was really pivotal, and we're the first Power Five school to really start an esports program. So we've been all over this esports thing, and it's just exploded. And it creates great career options. Aside from having a rich collegiate experience, our students have made a production studio, and they're doing all sorts of great stuff with social media production and online production via Twitch, reaching 500,000 people. It's insane when you listen to students what they want to do and you empower them to do it. Incredible things happen.
All right, Roger, we have time for one quick question. Where would you like to see the gaming industry be in the next 5 to 10 years?
Yeah, I tell you, the games industry is exploding here in Utah. It's really big. Our Warner Brother Avalanche studio is a good example, our Epic Game studio, and we have startups like Strange Reptile making awesome VR experiences that are exploding. And I tell you what we'd really like to see in the next 5 years is the same thing happen with games that happen to film, right? Which is to grow local industries, you have to figure out how to support those startups in the beginning. Right now, we're graduating just a crop of incredible students. Depending on the year, up to 97% of them get jobs, but most of those jobs are out of state, right? And so I think here in the near future, we're seeing games growing in Utah, and we all just have to figure out as a public how to keep encouraging that.
All right, you've been hearing from Roger Altizer, the co-founder of the School of Entertainment, Arts, and Engineering at the University of Utah. Roger, thanks for a great discussion tonight. We enjoyed having you on the show.
Thanks for having me. It was a pleasure.